Hey guys, Heath here, Shepherd's Forge, again. I finally, I always talk about this table of work that I have sitting around. And not all of it is always my work. Some of you may remember the feather pattern Damascus billet that I had purchased, and mind you, I purchased this billet for Steve for Christmas last year. And I said, hey man, this is a big, thick billet, feather pattern. Here you go, make something beautiful. And the reason I did that was because Steve has really just stepped up as a knife maker. He's really good, and so I bought him this billet from a very, very reputable maker. I believe they're out in Vegas. It wasn't cheap. It's a really beautiful billet, and Steve is not a stock removal guy. That's kind of where I'm at. I will do Damascus billets and then do stock removal from there. Most of the time, I'm not a big forge the knife out kind of guy. I like the traditional blacksmithing for my forging. Not big on doing it with knives because I can get a little bit more precision by doing stock removal. And I had told him, if you start hammering on this, you are going to disfigure the pattern. That's just the way that goes. And so, against his his own love for hand forging, everything he does, he did a stock removal knife. And if you go back into my videos, you'll see that. And I got one side of that blade up to, I think, 800 grit, and it's beautiful. And then I kind of put it on my table and I don't know, I got distracted by other things, but I've come back to it. And now that I have my 2x72 reader grinder, I'm on to the other side of it. So this is the blade. Okay. This is up to 800 grit. This, I actually did the bevels. The bevels on this side are up to 120, and I'll get those up to 400. And then the face of the blade, I will get back up to 800. But what I wanted to share with you guys is that normally this would take me a couple of days to get the flats of this up to where I need it. But because I have my 2x72, I could put a Scotch-Brite belt on there and run it up and down the platen and then take it inside, and within a couple of hours I can get it up to 800 grit. Just takes a little perseverance. A couple of hours. Not a big deal. It's better than a couple of days. But you know, the big thing is that when I met Steve, he had nothing. That guy has come up in the blacksmithing and knife making like no one I've ever seen. Everything the guy touches usually succeeds. He could take a complete calamity and in his mind turn it into something else so that it's a success. That's hard to do for a lot of us. Normally, when I screw something up, I'm like, scrap it. I'm done. My buddy Steve, he doesn't work that way. Well, okay, this didn't work out. What can I turn it into? We tried making a hammer, and he turned it into a battle axe. That is just straight up badass. If it wasn't for Steve, I don't think I would be as far ahead in the knife making area that I'm at. Watching him come up and watching the way he does things and paying really close attention to how hard he works and his problem solving skills has made me a better smith. I do a lot of the hand sand. Like if Steve and I make Damascus, I do a lot of the hand sanding on it. Steve hates it. I'm not a huge fan of it all that much anymore, but I do still enjoy it. So I don't mind doing that for him. You know, Steve and I have this give and take relationship where, you know, everything's equal. Everything evens out between us. It really doesn't matter what it is. We both put in equal amounts of work. And that's really why Steve and I work as well as we do together. As odd of a couple as we are, you know, Steve being 6'6" and me being 5'6", it all just kind of works. And this has been an absolute joy to work on. His bevels, he did them all in the machine, 2x72. He's got a Grizzly 2x72. They were rough. They were rough. And when you start doing the hand sand, going the long way, all those little micro scratches show up. But because his hand is so steady, and he was able to keep this very defined bevel, it was like an hour of work to get these flat at 120 grit, which normally I would start at like 80, and then bring the bevels up to 400, which was probably another hour. He's got that false edge right here. This is going to be a beautiful, beautiful blade. And I really hope that Steve, like, knocks it out of the park with the handle. But he and I are both putting, like, the absolute best work we possibly can into this. And I'm kind of glad that I kind of waited and had this sitting on the table as unfinished work to work on, because now that I have my 2x72 grinder, I've learned a whole lot more. That was kind of good. You know, because I don't think a year ago I'd have been ready to tackle something like that. And the guard that goes here, he made that, and it fits. It's nice and snug, it fits. I have that as well. That I'm going to take up to a Trizact belt, and I am going to get that thing. He made it out of the same material as the knife. So it's going to be feather pattern, it's going to be beautiful. He drilled some holes, like, in the side of the guard, where he's going to insert some very, very thin copper rod to incorporate a little bit of color, a little bit of finesse. But I'm going to get the guard up to a Trizact belt and really polish the hell out of it, because what I'm going to do with this is obviously ferric chloride etch, and then I'll do a coffee etch, which will make all the black just super dark, but the nickel will pop out. I'm very, very excited about finishing this build, obviously, because it's a year in the making, and Steve has done just such a bang-up job on this thing. This is the side I have not hand sanded, obviously. But this is going to be a gorgeous build, and I can't wait to show you guys the end result of this. But again, I can't tell you how humbled and happy I am that I met Steve and I get to work with him. Because he's one of those guys where it doesn't matter what he's working on, he's going to make it happen. And that's his mindset. And a lot of us, myself especially, like I have it in my mind, this is what it's going to be, and that's it. If it fails, it goes in the trash. Steve's not like that. No, we're not wasting steel. We're not wasting material. We're going to make something happen. And that's an inspiration. It's an absolute inspiration. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I have for you right now. I'm just gonna go back in the house and you know, I got this up to 800. I got this on the Trizact, or not the Trizact, the Scotch-Brite belt, and I need to take this back down to probably 220 grit and come up from there. But it's not going to take me a couple hours. Really, that's it. A couple hours. Hand sanding is not that bad. It really isn't. I mean, I know you all hate it. But it's not that bad. So, anyway, Heath here from Shepherd's Forge. I just kind of wanted to shout out Steve, who is kind of in the shadows of my YouTube channel. I've been blacksmithing for 3 years. Steve's been doing it for just over a year, and he has already surpassed me in knife making, and that's awesome. But you know what? I love it because I'm learning from him. And there have been times where I do basic blacksmithing stuff where it's just like, I don't know that I would have thought of that. We all got to learn from each other. You know, and that's the love of this community, this blacksmithing that we do, this craft that we enjoy so much. It's all about learning. And when we come together as a community to do that, we're just that much more powerful, you know? We all got to support each other and learn from one another. And nobody should be better than the other guy. I mean, just, I don't know. I really like this community. So, from Heath here at Shepherd's Forge, you guys have a good night, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.